At a town hall, my manager joked loudly, if she put as much effort into working as she does into crying, maybe she'd actually succeed. The room fell silent as I smiled, took notes, and sent them straight to legal. 3 weeks later, he was publicly terminated for creating a hostile work environment, and HR had to issue a mandatory apology to every employee he had humiliated. I work in St. Louis, Missouri. Mid-sized marketing firm, nothing flashy, nothing cool. Just corporate halls, open-plan offices, and team-building lunches that taste like cardboard and awkward silence. I'd been here for 2 years. Got the job after my divorce. I moved back in with my sister and had to start over. Wasn't looking to get rich, just wanted peace and a paycheck. My title is Marketing Analyst, which sounds important but mostly means doing deep dives into client reports and trying not to fall asleep in Excel. It would have been fine, maybe even good, if it weren't for my manager. Gregory Nash. Greg is one of those people who makes everything about him. Loud. Pushy. Always with a fake grin and I'm just being honest attitude. Think guy who peaked in high school energy, but with a title and authority. From day one, he had it out for me. He didn't like that I asked questions. Didn't like that I didn't laugh at his weird, edgy jokes. Didn't like that I stayed quiet in meetings instead of jumping in to stroke his ego. I wasn't trying to be a problem. I just wanted to do my job and go home. But with him, silence was a threat. The bullying started slow. Snide remarks. Dumb comments. At first, I let them slide. I told myself I was being sensitive. I didn't want to lose this job. I needed it. After my marriage fell apart, this place was supposed to be my clean slate. But he kept going. You forget your brain at home today, Amanda? Wow, was that your best idea? Don't cry, it's not that bad, yet. He said those things out loud. In front of people. In meetings. He thought it was funny. Most people just laughed nervously and looked away. No one ever spoke up. I started crying in the bathroom at lunch. I stopped going to happy hours. I kept telling myself, just make it to Friday. Then, just make it to the end of the month. Over and over. The worst part? I was doing good work. My numbers were strong. Clients liked my reports. But none of it mattered to him. Then came the day everything changed. Company town hall. Big conference room. 50 employees packed into fold-out chairs while Michelle, our department VP, and Greg ran the meeting. Greg was already buzzing. Showing off, cracking jokes, being his usual smug self. About halfway through, someone asked a legit question about why so many people on our team had quit in the last year. There were 6 people in 12 months who left. One literally walked out midweek and never came back. Greg looked around the room, then turned to me, sitting near the back, and said, if Amanda put as much effort into her work as she does into crying in the break room, maybe she'd actually succeed. Dead silence. I felt my heart drop. But I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I smiled. Then I pulled out my little black notebook. The same one I'd been writing in for months, tracking the comments, the bullying, the patterns, and I wrote that quote down slowly. Right in front of everyone. Greg noticed. His smirk twitched. It's a joke, he said, trying to laugh. Come on, lighten up. Nobody laughed. Not Michelle. Not anyone. I didn't say a word. Just kept writing. I went back to my desk. Kept my head down. Finished the day. Walked to my car and cried hard, not because I was hurt, but because I knew I finally had enough. That night, I typed up everything. Every insult, every date, every witness. I attached screenshots of Slack messages, emails, everything I'd saved. It took hours. I was shaking when I hit send. But I didn't send it to HR. I sent it to legal. Months ago, I attended a free workplace rights seminar my sister dragged me to. They said HR protects the company's image, but legal protects the company from lawsuits. Big difference. If you want real change, you go where the company's scared to lose money. So I did. Legal didn't respond right away. But 3 days later, I got a meeting invite from them. A real one. No calendar fluff. They were quiet. They asked questions. They looked at my proof. They asked if anyone else had witnessed the behavior. I gave names. Then I waited. I didn't talk to anyone about it at work. I kept doing my job like nothing happened. But something had happened. Because I noticed people were avoiding Greg. He stopped walking around so much. He stopped making jokes. Then, 3 weeks later, another town hall was announced. We walked into the same room. Same setup. Same chairs. Greg wasn't there. Michelle stood at the front. She looked tired. Like she hadn't slept well in days. She said, "I want to address something before we begin. Gregory Nash is no longer employed with the company. An internal investigation concluded that he violated multiple workplace policies, including creating a hostile work environment. Moving forward, we will be updating our harassment policies and retraining all managers. HR will be reaching out to individuals who may have been affected." Nobody said a word. I just stared straight ahead. Calm. No reaction. But inside? I felt it. Like someone finally lifted a boot off my chest. Later that day, I got a formal email from HR apologizing. Offering resources. Asking if I wanted to join a committee to improve workplace culture. I didn't say yes right away. I'm not stupid. I know this doesn't erase what happened. But it's a start. People talk to me differently now. They're more careful. Not in a bad way, in a respectful way. Like they finally see what I'd been carrying around. As for Greg? I heard through a friend in HR that he tried applying at a big agency in Kansas City. They called us for a reference. Legal sent over a copy of the internal memo from his termination. He didn't get the job. I'm not done telling this story. There's more. But that moment? That silence in the town hall after Michelle spoke, it felt like justice knocking on his door. After Greg got fired, things were weird at work. Not better, not yet. Just quiet. People whispered more. Everyone acted like they wanted to move on fast, like what happened was some rare incident. HR sent out surveys, set up fake-sounding wellness check-ins, and tried to act like everything was under control. But it wasn't. What no one knew, not even legal, was that Greg still had access to some internal folders. I found out the hard way. One morning, about 2 weeks after he got fired, I logged into our shared client folder to pull some archived numbers for a pitch deck. While scrolling, I saw something odd, a folder labeled performance_notes_2023. It was new. Modified 2 days ago. I clicked it. Inside were Word docs with employee names. Mine was there. I opened it, heart racing. It was a full write-up. All made-up stuff. It said I missed deadlines. That I was emotionally unstable. That I cried in front of clients. That I caused friction on the team. It was dated 2 days before the town hall where he humiliated me. He'd tried to cover himself. He was building a fake case against me in advance, just in case someone like me ever spoke up. He wanted to flip the script if things went south. I took screenshots of everything. Every file. Every fake document. Then I backed it all up to my personal drive. I didn't say anything right away. Instead, I emailed legal again. This time with the subject line, Gregory Nash, fabricated documents found post-termination. I attached the screenshots. 2 hours later, I got a phone call from legal. Not email, a real call. They were furious. Said he wasn't supposed to have access to anything anymore. Said the IT team would be launching a full audit. Later that week, our entire department got locked out of the shared drive for 2 days while they went through the folders. Michelle called me into her office quietly on Friday afternoon. Closed the door. She looked tired. "Amanda," she said. "We found documents Greg wrote about you and others. He was trying to cover his tracks. Legal's adding this to their file." I nodded. I didn't know what else to say. Then she said, "We also found something else. He downloaded hundreds of files from the company server after he was fired. Client data. Contracts. Internal presentations. He tried to upload some of it to a personal cloud account." She paused. "That's federal. He committed theft of proprietary information." I didn't speak. I just sat there, letting that sink in. "Legal will be contacting the authorities," she said. Now the stakes were higher. It wasn't just workplace harassment. It was fraud. Theft. Maybe even something criminal. That's when things got really messy. I started getting calls from blocked numbers. At first I ignored them. Then one voicemail came through that shook me. "You think you're safe? You're not. You made a mistake." It was a man's voice. Not Greg's. But someone else. Sounded angry. Sounded like a threat. I recorded the message. Sent it straight to legal. The next day, someone slashed my tires in the company parking garage. Coincidence? Maybe. But I didn't think so. I filed a police report. HR told me to work from home until things settled. Legal asked if I'd be willing to give a statement in case charges were pressed. I said yes. I wasn't backing down now. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 of my coworkers, quiet ones, who'd always kept their heads down, came to me separately, asking if I had also heard from legal. They showed me their own fake performance files. Same format. Same lies. Greg had been building dirt on multiple people. People who never said a word because they were scared. I encouraged them to come forward. One of them, Rosa, broke down crying in the break room after sharing what Greg said to her on a late-night team call last year. "You're lucky we don't fire you for being invisible." She never told anyone. Now she was finally ready. More people started speaking out. One by one. The file got bigger. The HR team went silent. Legal kept everything tight, no leaks, no emails, just calls and closed-door meetings. And then another twist came out. Someone in IT had been helping Greg. That's how he kept access. That's how he got the files. They didn't say the name out loud, but we all figured it out. A guy named Trent. Quiet. Always at his desk. Always joking with Greg in the break room. He was walked out one morning, pale as a ghost, holding nothing but his badge. Now it wasn't just one bad manager. It was deeper. Greg had a helper. Someone willing to break rules to help cover up the harassment. Someone who watched it all happen and still chose to help him. Suddenly, the company wasn't trying to just patch things up. They were in damage control mode. We were told not to talk to reporters. Told not to post about it online. But something was coming, we all felt it. A reckoning. A storm. Whatever you want to call it. But I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready. By now, things at the company felt tense. Every floor was quiet. The break room was empty most days. People kept their heads down. No one cracked jokes anymore, not even the fake cheerful kind. A few folks left. Voluntarily. Some transferred departments. Some just vanished after a personal decision to move on. But the whispers kept growing. The legal team kept things tight. Too tight. I was told not to talk about the Greg situation with anyone who wasn't in legal or HR. But word gets around, especially when half the building saw Greg get fired and the other half heard about Trent being escorted out like he stole something. Which, well, he kinda did. Then a twist I didn't expect hit. I got an anonymous letter at my home. Typed. No return address. It read, "Be careful who you trust. Not everyone in legal wants this to come out. There are names on those shared drives that go higher than Greg." I just stood in my kitchen staring at it. Was it real? A scare tactic? A threat? Or a warning? I called the lawyer I'd been speaking with from legal. Told her about the letter. She went quiet for a second, then said, "Thanks for letting us know. We'll look into it." That's all. Nothing else. No follow-up. That weekend, I drove to my sister's place across the river in Illinois and crashed on her couch. I didn't feel safe staying alone. Something about that letter had me rattled. Not just the words, the fact that someone knew where I lived. I had never given out my home address to anyone outside of HR and payroll. So who the hell sent it? On Monday morning, I logged onto my company laptop and found something strange. My permissions had changed. I no longer had access to any of the shared client folders. I couldn't pull any old decks or campaign stats. I couldn't even open the basic marketing templates we used weekly. Locked out. I messaged IT. Got an auto-response. Then someone from HR called and asked if I could pause work duties for 48 hours while they conducted internal restructuring. That was the exact phrase, internal restructuring. It didn't feel like a pause. It felt like a warning shot. I started thinking about what the anonymous letter said. That someone in legal didn't want this to go further. That names went higher than Greg. So I did something I hadn't done yet. I called a real employment lawyer. Outside counsel. A friend of my sister's husband. His name was Darren, and he had the kind of voice that made you feel like you were either about to win big or go nuclear. I told him everything. From the town hall, to Greg's abuse, to the fake files, to the anonymous letter. He asked one thing, "Do you still have the screenshots?" I told him yes. He said, "Don't send them to anyone else. I want to see everything first." We met the next day at a cafe in Clayton. I handed him a flash drive. He plugged it into his laptop, browsed through the files, and said, "This isn't just a hostile work environment case. If that anonymous letter is telling the truth, and I think it is, we're looking at a coordinated cover-up. Someone else in leadership knew what Greg was doing and didn't stop it." I asked, "Why would they do that?" He looked me dead in the eye. Because Greg wasn't the only one doing it. That's when everything shifted. I had been so focused on Greg. His insults, his bullying, the way he made me feel like trash in front of coworkers. But I hadn't thought bigger. Darren explained that companies sometimes protect toxic managers because it's easier than admitting failure. Because it's cheaper to let a few people quit than to fire someone high up. Because sometimes HR knows and looks the other way. And sometimes, just sometimes, people in power are involved too. He told me we could take legal action. Not just complaints. Actual legal filings. But he also warned me, if you go forward, they will come after your reputation. They'll say you're emotional. Unstable. That you were a problem employee. That you made it all up. He asked me, "Can you handle that?" I didn't answer right away. But I knew I could. I had already survived worse. What I didn't know yet, and what came next, was just how deep this thing went. Because the next day, someone leaked something to a local business blog. An anonymous tip. An article went up titled, "Inside the Meltdown at Barton and Keyes, Hostile Work Claims, Mass Lockouts, and a Termination Cover-Up?" No names were listed. But everyone knew. And 2 hours after the article went live, my work email was permanently deactivated. No warning. No goodbye. Just gone. No pause. No restructure. Just deleted. They thought they could silence me. But they didn't know, I wasn't done yet. When they deactivated my email, I knew exactly what they were trying to do. Erase me. Make it look like I left on my own, maybe even blame me for the leak. I expected a call from HR. A formal letter. Some fake legal talk trying to cover their backs. But I got none of that. Just silence. So I made a choice. I gave Darren, my outside attorney, the green light to go public. He filed a formal complaint with the Missouri Commission on Human Rights, followed by a lawsuit citing retaliation, gender discrimination, hostile work environment, and wrongful termination. He also sent Barton and Keyes a notice of litigation, which meant they now had to preserve every file, email, Slack message, and Zoom recording they had. No more deleting. No more hiding. The company scrambled. People who used to ignore me now sent me panicked texts like, "Hey, are you okay? And just want you to know I never agreed with Greg, too late." And then the next bomb dropped, and it wasn't from me. Rosa, the same coworker Greg once humiliated, filed her own lawsuit. And another woman, Dina from sales, did too. They had similar stories. Different departments, same behavior. It was a pattern. A culture. Not just Greg. Their lawyers reached out to Darren. Together, they built a class action case. Turns out, Greg wasn't the only manager making comments. He was just the loudest. One guy in HR, Craig Mason, had covered for him at least 3 times. We had emails showing it. Craig had resolved complaints by closing tickets and never documenting them. And guess who signed off on that? Michelle. The same VP who stood in the town hall and acted shocked when Greg made that joke about me crying? She had known. Emails proved it. She had received direct reports about Greg's behavior for over a year and chose to ignore them. Because Greg brought in results. He was toxic, but clients liked him. He got deals closed. The higher-ups didn't care how many employees burned out underneath him. So we exposed it. We didn't go to the press right away. Darren advised we let the legal process play out, so the company couldn't claim defamation. But that business blog? They kept digging. They found more former employees, people who had quit, people with NDAs. Some agreed to speak off the record. Some shared redacted documents. And suddenly, the story was everywhere. It hit LinkedIn first. Someone anonymously posted the article with the caption, "Ever wonder why people keep quitting Barton and Keyes? It's not burnout, it's rot." Then local news picked it up. Then national HR watchdog sites. And then a journalist at the St. Louis Dispatch ran a full feature, "Toxic Leadership, Silent HR, and the Women Who Fought Back." They didn't use our names without permission. But the story? It was all there. Word for word. The files. The fake performance notes. The anonymous threats. Even the voicemail I got. All of it. The company tried to go into damage control. Michelle resigned. Craig from HR was let go. The CEO released a statement that sounded like it had been written by a PR intern and chewed up by legal. "We are committed to fostering a healthy workplace and are conducting a third-party audit." Too late. We kept going. We demanded a full settlement. We had receipts, witnesses, emails, audio files. They didn't stand a chance. They settled quietly, very quietly, but we didn't stay silent. Rosa and I took our cut and launched something we never thought we would. A nonprofit legal fund for women facing workplace retaliation in Missouri and Illinois. We called it Break Room No More. I didn't go back to corporate. I didn't want to. I took some of the settlement money, moved into a small 2-bedroom in Maplewood, and started freelancing. I picked my clients. I chose the projects. I made my own schedule. For the first time in years, I breathed. And Greg? The last I heard, he tried to launch a consulting firm, but the internet never forgets. His name is tied to every article, every post, every archived Reddit thread. No company wants to touch him. Not even the shady ones. He now sells used cars in Festus. Someone sent me a screenshot of his Facebook Marketplace profile. Great deals, no pressure, just honest work. Funny. As for me, yeah, I cried. A lot. But I also stood up when it mattered. I spoke out. And I paid the price, but I got it back tenfold. The truth is, sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's not slamming doors or dramatic speeches. Sometimes it's just surviving long enough to tell your story. And watching the ones who hurt you burn under their own lies. That's what happened here. And I'll never apologize for it. Not now. Not ever.